today. So thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about the secure digital perimeter. I'm assuming all of you attended the session this morning, right? Yes? Very good, okay. So we're going to go into more detail. So the guys talked this morning on the stage very high level about what the secure digital perimeter is and how we define it and what our security approach really is. So this session is actually to go into all of the use cases that they didn't even touch on this morning. So my name is Robin Mankey-Cassidy. I've been with Citrix for 8 years now. I've had a number of PM and PMM roles. And my co-presenter today is Akalesh, who's going to deep dive into all of the details for you. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I have to say anything I say cannot be held against me. So that's the safe harbor statement. But let's start about secure digital perimeter. They talked about it really quickly this morning, but really our jobs are changing. Before I came to Citrix, I was in your shoes. For 21 years, I ran IT in a number of different roles. And that had changed over the 21 years, it changed so quickly. Over the last 10, it has changed even faster than that original 20. It's things like IoT. It's the SaaS apps. We used to be able to control everything, so it made it really easy for us to manage our environments and our networking and our security. So now we've got all these disruptions with mobile and millennials. How many have millennial problems? Yeah, excellent. So Citrix provides the workspace, digital workspace. This is a way that we can easily provide all of the apps across all of the different platforms that you need and file sharing. And I really hope you were paying attention this morning about where we're taking the workspace. If you see, it's not just a reinvention of the receiver, it's really a new way of doing business that the digital workspace brings into account. And really, analytics is huge. It's underlying everything that we do, and it's going to be a huge part of what we talk about with you guys today. So this is one of my favorite slides. You saw a newer one this morning, but really, what we focused on forever and what secure digital perimeter focuses on is the user. Their apps are changing, where they're located is changing, the devices that are changing, but really it's always been the center of everything that we do. It's what the user is trying to get to and how can we securely make sure that we still get them there. And our secure digital perimeter is not a story about networking, and it's not a story just about workspace. It's a story about how we bring all our solutions together to provide a secure connections. How do we securely fix these environments? So let's talk about our point of view here. So first, yesterday, I talked about it a little bit, right? We controlled everything. We used to use, and I'm going to date myself, Ghost. How many people know what I'm talking about in here? Yep. Used to use Ghost to manage all of the devices, right? It was great. Nobody could put anything on them. We controlled everything about them, the applications, the updates. But it was also true in the data center, right? We controlled the network. We controlled the applications and the resources that they could get to. And there was a very defined perimeter at both the data center and the organization. So you couldn't get in or out of those without us knowing what was going on. But today that's changed. Most of the apps, I think at the beginning of the year, the study we saw said like 40%, 30 to 40% of applications were now SaaS. That number has actually already gone up to almost 50% of applications that are coming into enterprises or either SaaS or web-based. So either they're making them themselves, so your line of business organizations are creating their own web applications, or you're buying them from third parties. So that changes the dynamic completely, right? Now most of your data isn't where you thought it was, and those applications are out and about. So what we like to say is your workspace is expanded outside the desktop and your network, so you have to think about a new way to manage it. So complexity is a huge part of this, and part of it is because the apps are everywhere. Your users are everywhere, but you still have a lot in your data center. You still have a lot on-prem in your data center that you're still having to manage because it's a migration. We're going to get there over time. Some are way ahead. I talked to some people in New York. You'd be surprised at how far the financial companies are. And there's others that are still trying to figure out how the cloud is going to play into what they do. But it brings into account the complexity that these environments have. Things about personal data, application sprawl, the complexity of the environments themselves, and the insights. How do we still make sure we have compliance and we have visibility across the entire data center and entire network that we need? So we did a study last year with Podemon. It was actually the end of last year. 83% of the businesses we talked to, which were both customers like yourselves and potential customers, said 83% of their organizations believed that not only the environment was adding complexity, but how their organizations were set up. Because networking was separate from the application delivery, that was different from the end user computing, you can see how the vectors of security risk can get amplified, especially when you're talking about things outside your normal environments. So it's funny. I've talked about this security thing a couple of times. We've had some sessions with some customers. Attacks are different. Does anyone have like any idea how attacks are different than they were, say, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago? They're after the money. So I'm going to date myself again. How many people remember the I love you virus? Yeah, there's a couple in my age group out here. So I love you virus was awesome. I had a VP of my engineering group who sent it to everyone in our organization. Why anyone would open an email that says I love you and then decide to send it to everybody is beyond me. Anyway, but it wasn't financially motivated. It wasn't out to take anything from the organization. It was all about how far I could get my virus into your organization and infect you. But it really wasn't motivated by money at all. Everything now is motivated by money. They're actually targeted. They're targeted after financial people. They're targeting CEOs. They're targeting the people, even all the way down the food chain, who have access to the money. If you go out and you read some of the reports, it's actually quite scary how some of these happen. Like a VP of marketing had emailed the finance group to let some money out, and it was like millions of dollars, but it wasn't actually the CEO or the VP asking for the money, but because it had the right name and tag, they went ahead and released it anyway. So it's not, just the high-level guys, but it's people in that segment. The next part is really about the attack vectors. So again, what I said before is so true. We had control. We knew where they were coming from. So you could put firewalls up very easily and be able to control the traffic that was coming and going. But now that's not true. With your data sitting at Workday, with your data sitting out at Salesforce, how do you still make sure that those attack vectors are still protected? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So these same people, 3/4 of them came back and said they needed a new framework to be able to do security in the enterprise of today. So how can we change what we're doing and not have just point solutions? Most of us have point solutions, right? We have DDoS protection. We have web app firewalls here and there. We've got antivirus on endpoints. We do some management of the devices. But none of those systems talk to each other. None of those share information. So how do you know you're really protecting your environment and your data the way you hope to? And that's why the people we talk to and that we believe you got to think about security in a different way. So let's talk about, I like to build this slide out because it's just easier for us to talk to. So on the left-hand side is traditionally what we've done, right? We've had attack vectors that we wanted to make sure we were controlling. We wanted to make sure that there was a policies, but we applied them on those individual points. We forced the user through specific tunnels to get into the environments, which meant they were figuring out how to go around them to make their lives easier. We worried about the DMZ, and we put a bunch of doors and locks and keys in the way of getting to the resources they needed to get to. But now we're talking about a people-centric. We're talking about let's put the policies on who and what we know. We know the user. We know the apps that they're trying to get to. We know the networking, and we'll talk more about all the way through where they're getting to. So let's put the policies on them. Let's put the policies on the applications and how they're accessing them. And let's make sure we have the context in place. Context is going to be key, and when Akhilesh and I start talking about this, where the user's coming from, what their device is, what the OS is, when was it last patched, what is the operating system it's running. You know, what are they trying to access? Are they coming from China? Are they in China trying to get something into the US or vice versa? So context is key. And instead of putting all of these blockers in the way, what if we had a system of detectors that we could figure out if it's going down the wrong path or getting in, security attacked, and be able to actively go in and make changes, not only to the workspace, but to the network in which we're coming across. That's what we're going to talk about. So we have 3 key pillars. I'm not sure we talked about this today. I had to walk out a few minutes before the presentation ended this morning, but basically our security approach is threefold. 1, controls. Let's put the controls on the user. Let's also minimize the attack surfaces. So as long as we're watching where they're coming from and how they're going, we should be able to do that quite easily. Second, 360-degree visibility. Now that you have SaaS apps, do you know what happens between the end user and the SaaS app? Do you know where their traffic's going? Do you know what it's running into? Do you know what's going in between it? Probably not. So how do you have that visibility? And also, make sure that you have it in your hybrid cloud. So as you're moving your workloads out of your traditional data center to Amazon or Azure or AWS, how do you still have purview and control over all of that? And finally, analytics. I hope were you guys excited about the analytics this morning a little bit? Excellent. We are very excited because we've actually seen, we were at RSA a couple of weeks ago. Everyone's talking about analytics, but not many people are actually talking about being able to proactively make changes in your environment when it sees something going wrong. So that's what we're going to be able to do, and that's our big selling point for our analytics solution. So we've actually divided up all of the security, we call them benefits, but they're really all the scenarios and use cases that we could come up with how we can help protect you and things that you actually should think about as you're looking at your security environments. So it's things like contextual access, security from a device perspective. And when we say device, we're talking everything, right? iOS, Android, Chromebook, Windows 10, OS X, and those coming down the pipeline, even Raspberry Pi devices. Business continuity, we're taking a different spin on business continuity, so really pay attention to what we're talking about there. And again, analytics at the end. Now we tell our sales guys, so if they come out and talk to you and give you this big 8-point list, tell them, no, I really want to focus on these 1 or 2 things. This is way too much to take advantage of, right? You've got to take it in smaller pieces. So we're going to talk to you about all of them today because we want you to know what they are. But, make sure you focus on put them in a priority order and focus on the ones in the order that you think would benefit your organization the most. So Akhilesh is going to start walking us through these use cases. Akhilesh?
All right. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm going to just go back to the slide again. Raise of hands of how many people are still with us.
You're here, 2 hands.
That's great.
All right.
So I'll try and keep you with us and hopefully get more people along. So when Robin said, look at these use cases and see what suits your requirements, But I also want you to look at these use cases together. Create that big picture in your head. Obviously, then you can sort it out which is your first priority and the second priority. But don't look at as siloed benefits of Citrix, what it provides you with secure digital perimeter. So let's start with the first one. Let's start with contextual and secure access. So access is where everything begins. You need access to your data. You need access to your applications, your personal information. You need access to everything that you need to get the work going. And what I can access is obviously defined by my application teams, but they also need to conform to the IT and the security teams and provide you the access that you require. Now, in the previous times, traditionally what we had was very static policies wherein we were defining users can access A, B, or C. There was no external parameters now that we have, which we're talking about, users working from home or users working using different devices. How do I capture all those different changing parameters and provide that single access? So that is where we want to talk about the contextual aspect of what this secure access looks like. So we do have our solutions, so different solutions that you may have implemented in your organizations. Starting with, let's say, traditionally we used to have web applications where you deployed a proxy or an SSL VPN, for example, for remote users to come in and access your applications and so on and so forth. Pretty easy, straightforward. Users are just sitting in at home sometimes and then accessing these applications. Now, fast forward that to today, you have SaaS applications. It's applications that you have sanctioned, applications that your IT has approved your users to use. You can implement any access management solution, or you may have already an access management solution where you are giving access to these SaaS applications as well as the web applications. And then there is a third category on the top, which is the line of businesses. They are rolling up their own SaaS applications. Applications that you have not sanctioned, applications that you have not approved for your customer or users to use. Now, these applications, obviously, you can control access to these by some form of a web filtering kind of tool or a service. Now, these are different products. These are different point products that you have to manage separately. Your users will have different access policies. You have to define, for all these different line of products. What with Citrix, what we are offering, and that we announced today in this keynote was Citrix Access Control. So Citrix Access Control is combining all these different technologies and providing you a cloud service to access not only your SaaS, the SaaS applications that you have sanctioned, or the web applications that are sitting in your enterprise data center, but also the applications that you have not sanctioned or control the user traffic going into these unsanctioned applications or any other websites that may break your compliance, that may jeopardize your security, and that users, if you want to play around with the user or have fun with the users, stop them applying for jobs so you can actually go and block LinkedIn, right? So all these different policies or all these different kind of use cases you can answer with Citrix Access Control. Now, what in the keynote we spoke about was the differentiator that we have with any other vendor that's out there, which is the last bullet in the green bubble, which is Cloud App Control, right? So the Cloud App Control is basically controlling the user actions after they are through logging into the SaaS applications. And what that means is you can actually control what actions they can take after they log in. So for example, they cannot copy or paste or download the files from SaaS applications or upload the data in SaaS applications, for example, and watermarking and so on and so forth. So all these policies are provided by Cloud App Control, and we are the only vendor that provides this solution for a secure SaaS environment. We are also announcing a tech preview, so you'll see a link. It's a bit.ly link, might be a little easier to remember. You can take pictures of it as well. But this link is live today. If you are interested, you can actually fill up the form, and we can give you a preview into what this solution looks like. So how are we different? Why should I buy Citrix? Why do I care? So in addition to obviously the whole consolidation, you may think around, hey, I don't need this full solution right now. I need a simple one single use case. We do have point products as well. This is not the only solution we provide, but we do have point products where you can actually do single sign-on to SaaS web and virtual applications. We have Unified Gateway, which is an on-prem solution. We also have a gateway service that we have also in the tech preview today that is a cloud service providing just the single sign-on. Access control is just beyond single sign-on. It provides cloud app control for SaaS apps that I was just talking about. Now, it provides you a consistent user experience. Today, this solution works with Workspace app. You saw the demo of Workspace app, how it looks like today in the keynote. Your users will need Workspace app to get to access control and to use this solution. So that provides obviously a one single place where all the users can go and access all applications and their workflows and the files and all the systems they have access to. So that is the Citrix story of having that one single place where you can actually go and access your workspace.
And we actually support two-factor authentication with this as well, right?
Thank you so much for reminding me that. Yes, we do offer multi-factor support with Azure AD as well as if you have on-prem. We have native capabilities of generating a one-time password. So you can actually use a Google Authenticator app or a Windows Authenticator app and actually do the native one-time password for two-factor authentication. So thank you, Robin. For the user behavior, it obviously now I need I need you to start thinking about, when I talk to each of these benefits, how does it all come together? The way it all starts to come together is we pump the data into one Citrix analytics engine, which can actually detect any user behavior anomalies that you may have. So if somebody is starting to have multiple login attempts, for example, or some users are trying to download or go to websites or phishing websites, you can actually monitor all of that data and enforce any controls you want to have to that user access. So all of that is provided with Citrix Analytics and Access Control. So this was around access security. Let's move on to the next topic, which is mostly around the devices. And these devices are not only your mobile devices. These devices also are your laptops and your Windows, your Chrome OS, any device that you use to access your application. So the first part was access. How do I make sure that I secure the access to the applications and the data? The second part is talking mostly about how do I control, secure your device and the data that is stored on that device. So I'll just take a little quick background of how this has evolved. In the traditional times, we used to have our EMM solution covering only your mobile devices, and then we used to have SCCM or LAN desk solution, which used to cover your laptops and desktops to manage them. With the UEM or Unified Endpoint Management, we are combining these two into one single solution. Now, using that, you can not only control and manage your mobile devices, you can also manage and control Chrome OS or Windows and the Mac devices. So that's what we offer with Citrix UEM solution.
So how many of you are actually letting not only your users bring in mobile devices, but also their own laptops? How many have already started going down that path? Okay, very interesting. Thank you.
Yep. So now you can actually use the UEM to not only the mobile devices, but also your BYO for laptops and Mac. Now, in addition to managing those devices, we do offer multi-containerization. Now, this containerization can be a platform MAM, wherein you want to use what is offered as in the device that you're using. So, for example, if you have an iOS device, it has its own MAM solution. Or you have Android for work, it has its own MAM solution that we support with XenMobile. You also may have some manufacturers who are providing extra applications like Samsung Knox. So Samsung Knox comes with every Samsung device. It provides you very basic MAM capabilities for their user devices, and you can actually integrate that with XenMobile. So in addition to doing the platform MAM, the XenMobile offers its own MAM solution and the MDM solution. So if you look at other vendors that are out there, you can either have an MDM solution from them, or you need to have both MDM and MAM. With XenMobile, you can actually implement either or. So you can either have just MDM or just MAM or either or both. So that's the flexibility that XenMobile provides you for managing your end user devices. And with MAM capabilities, obviously the way it differs from MDM is you don't need to have any device level policies. So with MDM, you may have a policy for either wiping out your whole device or some parts of it, or locking it or unlocking it. But from MAM, it all boils down to application level policies. You don't have to do the whole device per se if you implement MAM. And then over and above that, we also integrate with Intune MAM, which is, Intune has this, which is Microsoft solution for managing the mobile devices or applications. We do integrate with Intune today with offers around secure mail or Intune browser, so we can actually do per app VPN functionality with all the Intune managed devices or the Intune managed applications to access any Office 365 or any on-prem deployments of Office from your mobile devices. So all of that is available today with XenMobile. So again, comes to my point is how are we different, right? So we do have some comprehensive UEM where you not only can manage your mobile devices, as I said, but also your laptops and MacBooks and all of that. And then it provides your IT to control security for all devices and across all apps. So you don't have to just have multiple solutions for just managing mobile devices or the laptops or the desktops, but overall it gives you a complete solution to manage every device that is in your organization. And then obviously we do have integrations with Intune and other third-party products where you can actually provide the per app VPN capabilities for those applications. And obviously then I still want to insert the Citrix Analytics story again here, right? So this pumps the data back into Citrix Analytics where you can also now control any user behavior anomalies and anything that is going on your mobile devices. For example, you can set any policies on your mobile devices for data storage, for example, or any user behavior, controlling any user behavior who are accessing all these applications from mobile devices. So all of that boils down to how this comes together with Citrix Analytics.
Now doesn't the XenMobile also tie into secure access? It pumps in additional information into the system to make decisions about what applications they should have access to and those types of things,
yes,
right?
Yes. So basically, from the location of the user, depending on what device they're using, either they are doing a BYO or a corporate-owned device, all of that, pumps into the analytics engine, and it can actually define policies for what kind of access you want to give to that particular user. So you may have restricted access from the users who are using their own personal devices versus corporate devices and so on and so forth. So all of that comes together with Citrix story around secure digital perimeter as well as the integration of products that we have.
It's not a standalone solution.
Yes.
Again, talking about the solutions about how the products are working together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we spoke about access, device. Now let's get into how Citrix helps you to provide user security and application security. Now user security is obviously a big topic these days. We see a lot of attacks coming in from ransomwares and malwares and so on and so forth. So how do Citrix help me achieve that security? So we have Secure Web Gateway. It's a virtual appliance as well as a hardware appliance. Now, it provides, you can actually control any access to your unsanctioned apps. You can do any web filtering or URL filtering, if you will. We do also have any ICAM integrations with any DLP vendors as well as the antivirus and malware vendors to control anything that is coming from internet. So you actually can control your user traffic going onto the internet, and you can block the traffic. Now, obviously, you may have some set of requirements. So for example, we have seen a lot of universities or education institutes who want to comply with CIPA, which is the Child Information Protection Act. Now, you can actually define policies or websites where kids can go from within the university campus, for example, what they can access and what they cannot access. So all of this can be provided by our secure web gateway. It also is, if you have any NetScaler SDX platforms here, you can actually deploy secure web gateway as a virtual machine on top of that SDX platform. And it can provide the whole solution for the forward proxy. Now, we do have integrations with secure web gateway. The first of all is the XenAp integration that we have. Now, when you implement XenAp, first of all, your thing in mind is I need to virtualize my app. I need to centralize all my data that users are accessing, which is a great thing to do. But how do I control what users are accessing on the internet from my virtual machines or from my XenApp traffic that is going through the XenApp servers into the internet? Now, with Secure Web Gateway, you can implement any controls that you want to put for users who are accessing internet through their XenApp browsers, for example. So all the traffic will be intercepted by the web gateway, and it can actually, you can do whitelist and blacklisting of the URLs and the categories and inspect some of the traffic coming in. It also is used with, primarily we announced this solution early this year with Secure Browser, wherein if a secure web gateway thinks this slide is not black or white, I am not too sure what the category of this website might be, it can invoke a session on through your secure browser. So you can still access that website, but in a much more contained and a secure environment than you would do if you're using a native browser. So all these solutions obviously are coming together with Citrix to provide this user security. And then obviously it can pump, again, data back to the analytics engine where you can actually enforce all those policies and control how the user should interact when browsing the internet. Then from the application security perspective, we have our web application firewall. Now, web application firewall comes with our ADC solution. It supports both hardware and the virtual appliances that you may want to have. But it also can be hosted on AWS or Azure. How many of you guys have workloads on Azure or AWS? Anyone? None? Okay. Okay, few. So you can actually deploy the web application firewall on any of these clouds or in your data center. We will also have a web application firewall service, which is a Citrix cloud offering that you can actually consume. Now, it helps you protect from any web-based attacks like any cross-site scripting or any SYN floods, for example, or any based on any IP reputation. So you can do IP reputation. We have integrations around IP reputation where you can actually control the traffic to these IP addresses or from these IP addresses. And then in the end, we do have our network security that obviously gels well with our application security story, which our ADC product offers. Now you can have security at all three levels: network, content, and application. Application we just covered with WAF because WAF comes with our ADC product. And then in addition to that, we also provide network security with DDoS protection with any flood attacks that you have or you may have from any external or internal resources. And then obviously we do support all the new ciphers, elliptical as well as all the TLS, to provide you the better secure environment from the connection point of view. And then obviously brings to the point of how it is different. Now all these different security solutions that you saw in this use case with user security and application security as well as the network security, you may have different point products. You may have an application firewall from a vendor and you may have a secure web gateway from another vendor. Now what we offer with Citrix is the integration of these products, which allows you to have one single pane of glass, which is a Citrix Analytics, to control and enforce policies across all these different layers. And that is where kind of we are different from any other vendor. Now when you get into each of these products, ADC is our market leader product for the last 10 years. in the Gartner MQ. WAF is our best performing solution in the market. And we have offerings, with XenAp and XenDesktop, and which is our leading end user computing story. So we lead in all these point solutions, as well as we provide an integrated story which you can implement in your data centers.
Actually, just thought about another one we missed on this slide. Our hypervisor, the Citrix hypervisor from Xen Server, has integration with Bitdefender. So you can actually protect your workloads before it actually hits the operating system level. So we need to add Bitdefender in here. We forgot about that. Anyone using the Citrix hypervisor? Do you know what I'm saying about Bitdefender? So with the way that works is the traffic hits the hypervisor. It actually sees that it's bad behavior and doesn't actually let it go up the stack. So it never actually gets to the operating system or your applications. So it's stopped way before it can infect you. So some really cool technology.
Yeah.
I forgot we need to add that in here.
All right. So I still have you with me? Right? Okay, I see a lot of heads nodding. That's good. I think we are doing a decent job then. So, okay, so we spoke about access, application, network, devices, all the different layers of security. Now let's get into more granular details on in the content or in the files or in the documents, how Citrix provides security there. Now we do have ShareFile, which is our secure collaboration solution, which provides you an ability to securely collaborate with your peers, your customers, and whoever you want to. And it also provides very granular security controls to control outflow of your IP or any unauthorized access into your information. Now, how Citrix delivers value, this is just one slide to show. So we do have integrations with, obviously, our gateway product line to provide single sign-on with multi-factor authentication going into the ShareFile. So ShareFile is just a SaaS, and we do have single sign-on to SaaS. So that's where we come in picture, as well as all these other different capabilities around file sync and share. You can choose your own data source, whether you want to be on-prem, whether you want to go on cloud, or you want to stay hybrid. That's the choice we give you with ShareFile. And then you can also design your workflows. You can integrate with Secure Mail. Secure Mail is that, we showed in the keynote, is our mail client that we have. And you can actually integrate that with ShareFile to provide any DLP controls, if you will, to send out attachments, for example, for using ShareFile. So all of that integration happens in Citrix, and it's a very secure way to also synchronize your files across multiple devices.
So it's not only allowing you to send files, it's preventing you. So if a user tries to send a file that they don't have the access to share with someone externally, it actually retracts it from the secure mail email as it's going out the door. So really interesting solutions.
So so I wanted to cover that here, obviously, so with the DLP, we are not saying that we are a DLP provider, because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. A lot of you are already using some kind of a DLP solution from McAfee or Symantec, and our approach was to go and integrate and support your existing environments. And that's where we did integrations with McAfee and Symantec and ForcePoint, wherein when you are uploading a file on ShareFile, it goes to some storage zone of your choice, which acts as a proxy and sends the file for inspection into these DLP vendors or solutions that you may have deployed on-prem. Now we do have ICAP integrations, which allow you to pass your files into these DLP engines, which then can inspect your files and come back to you with the policies that you need to enforce with ShareFile. So you may have some very sensitive information and say, I don't want to email this file outside my domain. So that's where I think what Robin was suggesting earlier is the integration that we have with Secure Mail, that you can actually enforce these policies of this file or a particular file not going out of your email address or your office email domain names. So all those policies can be enforced with ShareFile. You can also enforce policies like, I don't want you to copy or print a file depending on the information that you may have in that file. Now, this is obviously when it stays in share file and you're emailing it out, but also, we have seen a lot of users now who are using mobile devices. They're working from home. They'll download the file from share file where they'll authenticate and they're authorized to download a file. But what happens after they download the file? A lot of times we see that all these policies that we have deployed or enforced on that particular file gets lost. When you download it on your local machine, you can actually go and send it out to everywhere you want. What with share file also, what we do is with Seclor. Seclor is our integration. It's a vendor that helps us to do the information rights management. What that means is the policies travel with wherever the file goes. So you can actually, even if after you download the file, you can enforce those policies of blocking users to copy or blocking users to email out, or even you can actually destroy those files in a time period. So you can say, please delete this file after you download in the next 2 hours. So those are the use cases that we have with share file, where it not only provides your policies so long the files are there in the storage, but also after the users download those files, and you can enforce policies as well. So that's what allows it to kind of stay within the files and travel with the file. And that's the kind of story or differentiator we have with other vendors. So you can actually control at multiple points. You can have authentication with obviously gateway, and then you can also share your content using secure mail, for example. And these are the different point integrations that we have with sharing and collaboration.
And then just the share file application itself, you can integrate that into your XenApp or Xen desktop environment, as well as Xen mobile, obviously. But yeah, so it's, you can get the look and feel consistently across the devices. So it's not just security, it's also user experience and performance.
Yep. And then in the end, it can feed all the data into that Citrix engine with analytics, where not only you are controlling access, you are controlling application security, you're controlling your devices, you're controlling your files, you're controlling the content within the files. All of that can be done using the same analytics engine. And that is possible when you start having a broader solution base from Citrix. Now, if you do have point solutions, now you'll need to have different analytics engines, which obviously where we differ in our approach is to provide you one single place and make your jobs and life much easier for managing all these different security products. We still together?
Yep.
All right, I keep checking. All right, so governance, risk, and compliance. This has become a big story in the recent past. We have GDPR coming very soon, May 25th?
24th, yep.
24th. So most of the companies have to, not only the companies who are stationed in Europe, but any company doing business in Europe have to comply with these standards. Now, how does Citrix help me in compliance? We are not saying if you deploy Citrix, you get compliance across your data center. But what we are saying is we'll help you achieve compliance in different sets of offers that we have with Citrix. The first of all is the access. So one of the requirements for the GDPR or any other privacy compliance, be it HIPAA or PCI, is around who can access what. How is the data protected? How is my data, which is in transit or data stored, encrypted using the latest algorithms? Citrix provides you all that solution with gateway or unified gateway or gateway service, whichever solution that you might want to take a look at, where we have all these role-based access controls of information that your users can access depending on their location, depending on the device you're using. And think of it as not only, again, access, but I'm also talking about devices. I'm also talking about the network. I'm also talking about the applications and the content they're trying to access. So all of that is coming together and providing me a compliance across across different segments of my network, different segments of my application, as well as the data. So now, again, access was one thing. Then we do have, a lot of you may have XenAp today. How does XenAp help me achieve my compliance? You can segregate the data in XenAp. You can define policies. We have security policies you can define in XenApp that can be enforced either on NetScaler or on the storefront, depending on what policy you may want to implement. And the users, depending on where they're coming from, what device they're using, get access to this sensitive information or not. So you may have users coming in from any foreign locations that you want to restrict their access to certain files only, which obviously you can do with or without XenApp. But you can also do it with NetScaler and other products that we have at Citrix. And then, how achieve compliance. This is just the overall picture of how we help you achieve compliance. And it's not only GDPR, it's PCI, it's HIPAA, and any FIPS that you may have for any federal customers here. But from access security point of view, as I was talking earlier, we provide you contextual access, multi-factor authentication, encryption of the data, either in transit, going from the user to the application, and so on and so forth. The second point is with unified endpoint management, we provide you compliance on the devices, on the data that you can store on these devices, so you can set up policies on what data you can store on your mobile device and what not. So all of that can be achieved with our Citrix UEM solution. And then the per app VPN, wherein your corporate apps can, when they're interacting with the data stays in their own private VPN tunnel. It doesn't get shared with any personal applications, for example. So all of that helps you achieve all these compliance standards. With VDI and virtualization, we do have centralization of these applications. We can restrict access to the data. We can restrict applications, access to the applications from the users coming in from different locations and devices. And then share file. We just spoke about how we help do any integration of protecting your IP with our DLP integrations, as well as information rights management, and which can be in the boundary of a corporate network or can go beyond outside of a corporate firewall. And then in the end, application delivery and application security. Now, I have combined the two bubbles because they mostly come as some single solution that you can purchase, but they may have different use cases. The ADC on one hand, which is application delivery, or ADC or our ITM or SD-WAN solution, helps you encrypt and do key management, and we follow all the latest FIPS standards, as well as application security, which allows you to keep your antivirus updated or give access to applications or users who are authorized to access data, and also protect you from any external or internal attacks. So this is how Citrix helps you achieve compliance in all these different areas or the verticals you may have in your organization. Again, we are not a point solution. We provide the full breadth of solutions that can help you achieve compliance. And then again, all brings down into one single engine to provide you analytics end-to-end visibility, to enforce these compliance or monitor compliance across all your application environments. Now that I have achieved compliance, that I have secured everything, how do I make sure that I still am in business, right? How do I ensure that if there is any external attack or a disaster or a natural disaster, how do I ensure I still am in business and serving my customers? So we have high availability of applications, networks, and CDNs. And I'm going to start with the CDN solution because this is the new offer or purchase we did with Citrix. Anybody had heard about Citrix before? Yeah, cool. So this is our ITM, which is intelligent traffic management of the internet traffic, where traditionally the traffic was through MPLS and VPN tunnels going into your data centers. Now, the data has gone beyond your data centers. It has gone into all these cloud infrastructures, wherein I need a solution which helps my users go to this applications that I've deployed in each of these clouds. Now, obviously, things happen, and I do have a multi-CDN story, wherein if one CDN goes down, I want to ensure that the traffic still gets routed to another CDN, and that's where Citrix plays, or ITM plays a role. So we do collect data from real-time users. So we have collection of data that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. Is in the real time, I can make decisions on what's the best route or the best available route for a packet to go from the users all the way on the internet to the end user and application. So that's where ITM plays a role on the internet. On the data center side, we always obviously have our NetScaler ADC solution, where if one data center goes down, this is not CDN, this is not internet, this is just the data center. So you may have multiple data centers, configured in HA pair on your data centers and applications deployed in the data centers. How do I ensure those applications are available in case one data center goes down or in case a network of a data center goes down? And that is what I do with my load balancing and the ADC solution that NetScaler provides today. You can deploy them on active-active, where if one data goes down, automatically the traffic gets routed to the next data center, depending on also where the users are located. So if I'm in London, for example, I don't want to route my traffic all the way to San Francisco. I can direct them into their nearest data center, for example. So that's another thing that you can do with our ADC solution. That not always is a business continuity issue, but also improving the performance of your user applications and the access to those applications. And
to make it more redundant, it's not just a hardware solution.
Yes, ADC is not only a hardware solution. It can be deployed as a virtual appliance on AWS, on Azure. Also, we are working with Google to implement that on Google Cloud. So all of those options are available to you if you wish to deploy ADC in multiple form factors. And then the third one is the branch. We create overlays, or we have created software-defined overlays with our SD-WAN solution. Obviously, we understand what the underlay is because we need to make sure we get the telemetry on the underlay solution for us to achieve a more high available solution that can provide you access to the applications if you're coming from branch office. Now, with this telemetry, you can actually see, what is the latency on each of your lines, either internet, MPLS, or LTE networks. And you can actually route the traffic where you get the best performance. But in case something happens, in case an MPLS goes down, how do I make sure that I still keep routing the traffic? So you can actually detect all these problems because you do understand what's going on beneath that software layer in the network. And then you can actually route all the traffic. In case MPLS goes down, in case internet goes down, you still have a third person to route your traffic to your applications. And that's what we offer with SD-WAN. So how are we different? You may have all these point products again from different vendors. And Citrix helps you consolidate all of that with one solution, or with the business continuity on the data center with ADC, business continuity in branches with SD-WAN, as well as the internet, which is the ITM solution. So you have business continuity at all the three levels with Citrix solutions. So we are getting there. So now I think we've covered most of the security focus use cases, where we talked about access security, we talked about applications and devices and files and users and business continuity and disasters. Securing everything is one thing, and then providing performance on top of that, making sure your users still get the best user experience on top of the security controls that you may have, is obviously one of our objectives. With contextual performance, we offer is mostly our story around networking products, where they come together to provide performance not only in the data center, where ADC plays a role with TCP optimization or SSL offloading for applications so that they can perform better when the users are trying to access them from any remote location. Now, in addition to the ADCs that we obviously have been selling for the last 15 years, we also have a new product, a relatively new product with SD-WAN, wherein you can actually control, for specifically virtual applications that we have, you can control and prioritize the traffic within each of these channels that HDX layer offers. So you may control, you may prioritize an audio over graphics, for example. Depending on the users, where they're coming from. Again, this is very contextual. The place your users are coming from, the device they're using, or things they're trying to access. You can actually prioritize each one channel over the other and provide the better user experience for the users who are trying to access a particular kind of data. So all of that can be done using SD-WAN. And obviously this is not only for, it doesn't help not improve the performance of only the virtual applications, but if you're accessing SaaS applications, for example, from branch offices, you can actually go directly to the internet through the SD-WAN channel, where it can provide some TCP optimization and HTTP compression and help improve performance of your SaaS applications as well. And then in the end, the ITM, which is our Intelligent Traffic Management with Citrix, it has these three solutions of what they call it, which is one is the radar. Radar is basically collecting data from end users in real time. It is around 15 billion calculations that it collects every day, comprises, mixes them and analyzes them, put them together to analyze what's the best performing route for each applications or data or the location of the users they are from. The second part is sonar, wherein the Citrixes, they kind of keep doing these soft pings to the application servers and see which route is performing better than the one. And they can actually, the third part is the fusion, where all the integrated products like Akamai and so on and so forth, they are also pumping their data into this fusion engine. Now, what Citrix is doing is it's combining all these three into what they call open mix, and that can be consumed by the end customers to see how the applications, or if they do enroll this service, we can actually we can route your applications using all these different analytics points that we have or we have collected in real time to route packages from your end users to your applications in a much smoother and with better performance. Now, we do, as I said, it's 14 billion or 15 billion measurements. It's not 7. I think there's a little typo on the slide. But we do gather all these different statistics in real time. So we call it like Waze of the internet. Have you used Waze, anybody? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So the way the Waze collect is data from end users, and it routes your car or any vehicle that you're driving through the best route to reach your destination. Similarly, with radar, Citrixes or ITM now, we provide the best route to the traffic based on the real-time conditions. And this data is all collected every day and analyzed. So again, across the stack, if you see, there is no other vendor that provides you a performance over data center, branch, and the internet. And Citrix brings that story together when we purchase the ITM to provide you end-to-end performance of all your application traffic. Whether it's going to the data center or the branch offices or to the internet, it doesn't matter. We can always find the best route for your packets. And then we are the only ITM solution that is collecting the real-time information. So you may see some CDNs or some other traffic management vendors who have some static data that they kind of use to route your traffic, but this is the only engine that does it in the real time and ensures your application availability across hybrid multi-cloud environments that you have. Now, again, if I talk about the analytics plugin into this, again, it'll give you all the security statistics, and I'll explain that in the next slides, as well as performance and operational statistics. So let's get to that. Let's talk about how user behavior analytics or the Citrix analytics ties all of this together. So what is Citrix Analytics? It is a cloud service. It is a cloud service that you can actually consume from Citrix, which provides you statistics in security, performance, and operations. So, and across all the solutions areas, all the 7 solution areas I had discussed before this, every solution area can feed data into Citrix Analytics, and it is across Citrix products as well. So you may want to deploy 1 or 2 Citrix products, if not the solutions. We can still consume data from these products into Citrix Analytics and provide you a machine learning algorithm based enforcement of your policies. It can detect anomalies across all these different areas. It can provide you statistics around how your applications are performing and so on and so forth for all the traffic that is going through any of these Citrix products. And that provides you a one single pane of glass to enforce policies, to view the statistics of your performance of the networks, applications, and also monitor the traffic from your users to the internet, to the applications, to the data that they're consuming. So why do I need Citrix Analytics? In the past, what most of the analytics have done is they'll sense the data, which means that they'll take the data, and you will have to now do a lots of configurations and so on and so forth based on what the environment you have. With Citrix Analytics, it's a turnkey solution. You don't need to really set up any probes or any hooks in your network to get the data into Citrix Analytics. It's just plug and play. You need to you just configure the Citrix products, enable them, and it'll start pumping the data back in Citrix Analytics. So it's a very easy to use solution that you don't need a lot of hand holding on. It is using all the machine learning based algorithms, so any artificial intelligence or machine learning, all of the algorithms, so we're using those. It's pretty accurate from the more data that we feed in Citrix Analytics, the more accurate it gets over a period of time, because it starts getting data around users across for applications, devices, and all of that, and start churning them together to make the best policy decisions it can based on your enforcement points, your organization policies, and what you have asked to take that action. So that it can automate some of that or all of those actions, and once it analyzes any anomalies and all of that, it can start enforcing those access points or enforces your user access policies. And then in case it does detect any breach or something, it can respond. It can stop user access. It can, disable some of the stuff that you want them to do in case it does detect any kind of anomalies or any kind of attacks. So it is descriptive, meaning that, if you see an anomaly user starting to upload, so for example, they were explaining in the keynote, suddenly you see a user pumping data into Dropbox, which is an unsanctioned SaaS, for example, in your environment, and you see a user who's regularly using ShareFile, now has started uploading some of the data in Dropbox, for example. Now it can detect this anomaly of a user and can block the access or can throttle down the network to stop the user pumping data in any unsanctioned SaaS application, for example. Diagnostic, how it happened now, it can happen because the credentials were stored. It can also happen because the user is not happy or he's maybe getting terminated or something. All of those can be diagnosed. So you can actually set policies on how to, what are those behaviors to keep an eye on. And then it can predict on what happens if somebody starts pumping data into Dropbox. Obviously, it can lead to your IP getting lost or any sensitive data getting lost in external SaaS applications, and it can quarantine the user or take actions per your definition on what to do when this happens. So all of that can be provided with Citrix Analytics.
And most standard analytics do the first two, right? They
Yes.
can be descriptive and they can help you figure out what went wrong. but they can't do the last two. They can't help you figure out what's going to happen next and then help you prevent that from happening. So it's really the difference between standard analytics and advanced. So we really like to talk about ours as an advanced analytics.
Yeah. And then we support all the Citrix deployments. So now you may have deployed, let's say NetScalers you have deployed on-prem. You may have deployed XenAp on-prem. And we support all these hypervisors with Citrix solutions. Citrix Analytics doesn't care where your Citrix workloads are. They can either be on-prem, they can either be in the public cloud or in a hybrid mode. You can have some XenApp sitting on-prem or XenApp sitting in the cloud or NetScaler and vice versa. All of that is supported today by Citrix Analytics. So you can actually start pumping in the data with your existing deployments and get all this user behavior analytics engine going on and enforce all the policies across your Citrix workloads. So how are we different again? We do provide end-to-end visibility and analytics. I don't think there is any other product in the market today that can give you this amount of visibility across all these different security products and security story that Citrix has, be it your devices, your applications, your users, your data, the content within the files and all of that. All of data can be visible with one single pane of glass. And you can enforce all these security policies across different products, different solutions, different scenarios, different use cases, depending on who the actors are, depending on what they're acting on. So users acting on the applications, devices accessing data, all of that can be controlled and enforced with Citrix Analytics solution. So that's all I had. I will give it to Robin to kind of just summarize
Thank you,
the
Akhilesh.
session.
So as you can see, if you take a lot of our products and make solutions out of them, which is how you're going to hear us talking about our products moving forward, you can put all of these together and address the security issues that you're facing in your organizations today using our workspace and our secure digital perimeter story. So we really want your feedback. So first of all, thank you for sitting through all 8 of the use cases. I told you it can be a little draining. So we really want your feedback. What are the most important use cases for your organizations today? So please take a picture of this. We'd love to hear from you. We're trying to organize how we put these together and what makes sense for our customers. So getting your feedback is huge. Second, you heard about this. I'm sorry, were you taking? Everyone take a picture, hurry. Okay, very good. Next, portfolio changes. We talked about a lot of our networking tools, but we actually talked about the entire portfolio today. We just want to let you know that there are changes coming to the names. It's really going to be based on their functionality. So 1, don't be scared. And 2, it's going to make much more sense to you anyway. So stay tuned. You'll be seeing that over the next several months. 3, 1, I hope you learned something today and were entertained a little bit. So please rate our session. We really would like to get your feedback. And before you leave, these are 4 of the sessions that actually are going to go into the solutions that we were talking about today. Analytics session, a whole analytics session about our hybrid cloud networking components, integrated access. So you'll see Akhilesh later this week talking about the full contextual access solution. So please go ahead and note some of these down, and we'd love to see you in those sessions as well. We are recorded, so you and I are now on Citrix TV, Synergy TV. So you can go back and watch it again and get our presentation. It's got a lot of valuable information in it, so as you're looking at your security solutions, please look at that. And that is what we have. We're open for any questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Please come up to the mic because our friends at home can't hear you without it.
For the anomaly detection, didn't hear anything about geolocation or IP location because it's kind of difficult for someone to log in from Virginia, then 10 minutes later log in from California, and then from Germany.
Yeah. Yes, so I can take
Go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, so you can actually do anomaly detection not only based on the data you're accessing, but also on the location of where the users are supposed to be coming from. So for example, coming from Virginia, trying to access an application, and the same user login is happening from another location. So we can detect and categorize, let's say, for example, as kind of stolen credentials or a user who's trying to access and as a different user, and you can block access based on those anomalies.
And as a follow-up question, say I have a user sitting in Ohio that could be pulling a VDI session from either Virginia or Missouri. Would you be able to whitelist that anomalous behavior because they may appear to some applications as residing in Missouri since that happens to be where their VDI session is residing, but then after lunch they may log in from Virginia and the system may say that's a half an hour. How did they get from Missouri to Virginia in a half an hour?
So just to get the question straight, you're asking is if a user is accessing a VDI which is in Missouri, and then suddenly that user is accessing a VDI from Virginia.
Originally from Ohio, right?
Well, we'll see situations where if you have a user in Ohio, they log in, do their VDI session, they happen to pull VDI from Missouri.
Yeah.
And they go to lunch, log out like a good person's supposed to retreat, release all the resources so they can be put back in the greater pool. Come back to after lunch, log in, they pull a VDI session from Virginia now. So it's only 30 minutes later.
It will correlate that. So it will know that the user has only logged in once and has only launched one session from either Virginia or, because that can happen all the time, right? And it could actually flop over. So I could start in Missouri, and while I'm actually working, it could flop me over to Virginia without even me knowing it. So we have to know about that. So yes, we do take care of that.
Yeah, and then other thing is it may also happen because performance of one workload might be different than, the user might not be able to get the best performance in one location, so the switch might happen as a result, or if something goes down and so forth. So all of that can be correlated and kind of analyzed of what that causation was.
That's what actually separates us from, like, if you just jumped your stuff into Splunk and it tried, and Splunk is a very good partner of ours, so I'm not going to diss them, but they don't know all of the background that we do about how the systems work and how they're going to fail over, because you're probably dumping your XenApps and desktop data in there, but you might not have your networking data in there. So it's not going to know if it failed over appropriately or something else is going on. So the more products or solutions that you have from Citrix, the richer that data is going to be and the more intelligent our analytics is going to be.
Yeah.
But yes, we should get that. That should be like table stakes, the question you had. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Well, Akalesh and I are around all week, so please come to our other sessions, and we'd love to get questions from you, even if you don't want to be on TV. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.